In today's fast-paced real estate landscape, success demands more than surface-level expertise. It requires insight, adaptability, proven strategies, discipline, and the ability to take risk. The Agent Brew podcast blends candid conversations with wisdom from industry leaders who've walked the path before you. Think of us as your strategic pit stop to fuel your real estate journey. From the crossroads of the world in the heart of Times Square, welcome to the Agent Brew, a podcast that percolates real estate insights. I'm your host, Eric Zollinger of Realty Co. Welcome to our viewers and listeners to another episode where we listen and explore and navigate a real estate agent's journey through the industry. Today, we're excited to have one of August PR's people. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike. Mike Fabbri, a luxury real estate agent from the agency here in Manhattan.
Yes, great to be here, Eric. Thanks for having me.
So, I just saw you last week at the Rebney Real Estate Board's Residential Deal of the Year. You were off on the side, and I was going to patiently wait. You were very intently in a conversation. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wait till our podcast, and then we'll be able to talk then.
Perfect.
You look great, by the way. So if you could give us an elevator pitch. What is your story as far as in the industry? How long have you been in the business? And if you have a team, how many people are on your team?
Great. So I've been in the business about a little over a decade now. I actually started not as an agent. I was on the corporate side. So I ran digital marketing, social media for Douglas Elliman, and I did business development within Compass. So I started off on the other side of the table, not licensed.
Well, you're one of the very few. Wow, good for you. And so, I guess when you joined, how long ago were you an agent? Just starting out, and did you start on a team?
Yes. So I'll say this. So I was at Elliman for a year and Compass for a year. Again, doing. I was working with agents and their teams, helping them build their brands, their marketing. If they had a new exciting listing, figuring out how the best way to position it. If they were growing their teams, how to find the right talent and how to train. And so I was like an internal coach for these companies. And then after a couple of years, I realized how am I advising agents when I've never really done it myself? So my intention was to get my license, try it out for a year, get some experience, then go back to that side of it. But after a year, I fell in love with it and there was no looking back. I got Rookie of the Year my first year. So I think that kind of told me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think after that, I realized I think this is my calling. I got to keep going this way.
That's fantastic. So I guess any mentors from your early on in the business?
Oh, yes. So what I feel so fortunate and grateful for is that I started my career working right under Dottie Herman, so the CEO of Element, and learning from her.
So what year was that? Because I too was at Element, but never as an agent, but in DEDM, doing project management.
Oh, great. Maybe we overlapped. I was there 2013 to 14, I think.
Got it. And I came in just at the end of 2015. So two ships passing.
Yeah, I did a lot of work with DDM too. Yeah, I started when Element didn't even have an Instagram. I created their Instagram. I grew the follow. It was just really exciting time to be in the industry. Anyway, so I learned directly from Dottie. Then I went to Compass. I was working for Robert Refkin and Leonard, and I was just kind of always really close to these industry leaders and learning from them. And then when I was at Corcoran, I had some of the best mentors there, because what I did was I decided not to join a team.
Okay.
I went individual to start, which is kind of crazy. Because
if you do it the right way. So I'm interested to hear how you actually collaborated and learned from others.
Yeah. So I decided to take what I had really going for me, which is I know marketing, I know digital marketing, I know social media. So what I would do is I was on the right floor at Corcoran. I would just go up to every top producer and say, listen, you don't have to pay me, or you could pay me percent. Just put me on your listing. Let me help you with your buyers. Let me help you with your social media, offering my services for free just in order to get that experience. So, within my first year, I was on a townhouse. I was on a penthouse. I was really exposed to deals I would, it would take me years in order to. So I was just, it was a lot of working for free, but it was just gaining invaluable experience. And so I call it my warp pipe. I was able to jump up a few levels within my first year very quickly. So that was
Yeah,
my,
I mean, listen, you weren't working for free. You were putting your time in, right? You were doing the research, the energy, and I mean, back in the day, because there were no teams when I started, that's how you did it. That's how we were always taught. Like, you're in the office, you collaborate. I was at 660 Madison back in 1999 with Barbara, and so I learned the whole industry just by being there, just by hearing. I was an assistant for two top agents, but when you sit on assistant's row, that experience and the people you come in contact with day in and day out is invaluable.
totally.
So kudos to you for seeing that early on and actually making it work for your advantage.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. And again, that's where I've so many people in this industry who've really helped me get to where I am, and so many mentors, people I looked up to that I learned from. So I was just, it was a very right place, right time situation. And that instilled in me this idea of collaboration from the beginning, that I always wanted to be independent because I wanted to be able to work. And so even as I grew, if I had a listing that, I wanted to bring someone else in on, we would partner or buy. I was just always continuing to do that because I really felt that was like in the best interest of me, my colleagues, but also my clients. So that's
Well,
been
right, because as an agent, we always said in New Deb, 90% of the agents are already with somebody else, right? As far as working with someone when they come to a listing. And so everybody's getting to know who you are. That's how I was able to climb the ladder so quickly, is because when you're associated with all those big listings, people remember you, right? And if you're working to make deals happen, they're going to want to work with you than when you're on the other side. So well done. And what led you to the agency?
thank you. So after Corcoran, I was approached by Ryan Serhant. So I worked with him for 4 years, and before the brokerage, Serhant was when we were at Nesters. So when it comes to mentors, I think I've learned the most from him, and I just like working under him, being his right hand man, learned so much. Um, and at the end of that, when he was starting Serhant, I realized it was a moment where, I haven't been out on my own yet. Why don't I try to do this? Take a step back. I had a lot of friends and a lot of people at the agency who I knew, and I liked that idea. It was like a very startup situation, but a really strong brand that I aligned with. And I decided I want to build my own team. So we're better to do that than the agency. And I just kind of timing, it all felt like fate.
It's always about timing. And so I'm curious to know how many years have you been at the agency?
It'll be 2 years this summer.
Great. And did you build your team or are you in the process of doing that?
Yes. So the first year, I was an individual. And again, what I like to do is it's a lot of like dating before you get married type things.
Right,
I
right.
was working with certain agents and seeing how well we did together, and finding younger agents to mentor, and really I wanted to do it very intentionally, very thoughtfully. So the first year I was an independent individual agent, I actually was the number one agent in my office, which was really exciting to achieve. And then during that time, I you know was able to recruit the people I wanted to surround myself with. So we formally announced or incorporated as a team January of this year. So now I have the Mike Fabbri team, and there's 4 of us on the team.
Congratulations. Well done. But it's always, you're only as good as your last deal, as we like to say, right? Or as we always think. It's a tremendous amount of stress. I'm curious, because you didn't come from another industry, you came from within and from the marketing side. Where do you find your clients? Like where is your big base? Because you've obviously been very successful. Is it all from your digital marketing? Is it, have you created that big of a presence that just keeps coming?
I always say it's about quality over quantity, but I'm very fortunate. I'm a very gregarious person, very social. I come from a big family. It's just always been a part of me that I'm naturally curious and I love people. So I had a very solid network. And I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut. I had a lot of cities. So I've just had a lot of roots here and a lot of connections that I I happen to already be very established in the New York scene. So there, it just became utilizing social media, digital media, in order to continue to stay in touch and to leverage my network to build business. And
If you already have the social network, and then if you're aligning yourself with these really top big properties, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
So, way to be very, very judicious and very strategic in the way you did this. So well done. I'm curious to know, can you share with our audience any particular wins over your career that you're most happy about?
Like I said, I think getting Rookie of the Year my first year really set me on the course of I want to be an agent. I kind of, not that I didn't believe in myself, but it's just that was not something I was
It
expecting.
helps.
Figure that going. Then stepping out on my own when I joined the agency, becoming number one agent in my office, that was again just a little sign that I was doing the right thing. But I would say another big win, I've now sold 2 new development condo buildings and I've sold them out. So
Congratulations. Which ones?
the Etage at 176 East 82nd, and
Okay.
then 145 Central Park North. I was the sales director on that building as well before I came here. So those were 2, new development was a different world for me, and it's something I had to learn and figure out as I went. So having that under my belt was a huge.
And not every resale agent can do new development. So well done for being able to sell those out. 'Cause it's not easy. I've spent a good portion of my career working on new dev, and there's nothing like it. There's just being able to sink your teeth into one project and know the ins and the outs, and really to be the expert for a long time. Hopefully you'll be able to continue selling these projects.
Yeah, it's just a different type of selling. It's a different type of strategy. It's very fun in a lot of ways, and I like it. So right now, and I just want to correct myself, 145 Central Park North is not fully sold out yet. When I left, we were 75% sold, but it was a
Got it.
number I was very happy to.
You did a great tranche of those sales then. So
Yeah, and then first project I ever was on sold out. That was 145 Carroll Gardens. But what I was saying is, yeah, I'm very interested in now continuing that new development side of our business, and so we're actively targeting, boutique condo buildings in Manhattan, and that's my next goal for this year is to get a new building.
good for you. So on the flip side of a win, have you had any transformational losses that, either personally or career-wise that you'd like to speak of, or that really influenced you to go in a different direction?
Yeah, I'll say this. When it comes to losses, the loss of trust and friendship and that I think everyone's experienced in this industry. It's very hard, especially when you're young and starting out and just eager to do anything and say yes and really get experience. So, I've learned the hard ways that you really have to surround yourself with the right people, and when you trust someone, it's you really want to invest in that and take care of them as well, because not everyone has your best interest at heart, and not everyone is as I would say collaborative, or that spirit of collaboration.
It's very insightful, especially, I mean, you can tell you've been doing this a while. I really wasn't sure how long you'd been in the business, because you do look quite young, which I mean, I started at 25. I had hair back then, but so I can really relate to many of the things you're saying, because and to be honest, nobody has yet mentioned the trust component as a loss, and that's something that I really resonate with, because I remember one time in my career, I said something wrong, and it was just, it went against the fiduciary, and I didn't even realize it. Just mentioning where somebody lived on the weekends, and it's like, oh, you mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to. And it's a fiduciary responsibility is so important, and I don't think a lot of times in our industry, enough is highlighted for the younger agents that think they might just be talking about, you go on the listing. Why are they selling? And so many agents will just tell you, oh, they're really looking to move quickly, or they're really looking, and I have to ask, did your seller say you could say that? you know so thank you for bringing up the trust part. Anything as far as what do you see as your biggest challenge right now in the industry?
I think for me personally, it's growing and scaling a business and a team. So much of why why I've been a success, why I've been successful is that my relationships with my clients and my manner of which communicating and operating. So it's really being able to scale that and instill those values onto my team that represent me. So I find that to be the next big challenge I'm up against, but I think I've got the right people for it.
Very good. So do you spend all your time working, or do you have any passions outside of real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I have two dogs who I'm obsessed with, and we bought a. I was up in
I'm a
Connecticut.
fellow dog person, so I can relate. What kind?
German short-haired pointer and a black lab mix. She's a rescue, so we're not quite sure of her breed, but we bought a house up in Connecticut, which I say is for our dogs. So we spent a lot on the weekends hiking and trying to, get some peace of mind and fresh air and escape the craziness of the city. But besides that, I love to write. I'm a big writer. It's been a huge, also another component of my career, though. I've found that manner of communicating really helps me keep in touch with my clients and for marketing. So that's been nice as well.
Nice. Do you do short stories? Do you do fiction? What's your favorite genre?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of writing a novel at the moment.
Oh, really? On
All that
fiction or nonfiction?
fiction.
Oh, wow. Great. Well, we look forward to hopefully having you mention it whenever it's done, so that we can help broadcast it out there. Now we come to the part where we play the gratitude game, which is rose, rose, thorn, bud. But because we are the Agent Brew, we like to throw a little bit of twist with coffee. So we do the aroma, the brew, the grounds, and the fresh beans. So the aroma, it's that fresh aroma when you're brewing that pot of coffee in the morning. Kind of, what gets you out of bed?
So the aroma for me is the prospect of a new lead. I feel like every time I get a new lead, it's like a dopamine hit. New opportunity, a new person to get to know. I am very much driven by that business development side of my business. So that would probably be my aroma that gets me out of bed.
Got it. So the next one then is the brew, that actual first cup that kind of sustains you. One might say, what is your why?
My why is creating a deal. It's problem solving. It's that feeling of like, this is where I add value. We're at an impasse. This is, how can I creatively solve this problem for my client before it even becomes a concern to them? So I like to say that's kind of my why. That really keeps me going throughout the day.
Nice.
Market like the deals are so complicated.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. There is no easy deal. And then if there is, just wait, because it's about to get harder usually. Okay. So
there's always something new.
There's always something.
Here's you do this job.
So then when we get to that, like the thorn in your side, the ground, they can get they can get everywhere. It's like, is there anything causing you frustration at the moment?
I would say what caused it's the communication from other areas that you can't control. So it's outside of your, it's relying on management companies to get back to you at a certain time, or, you're at the mercy of an attorney with a contract. So I think those frustrations are what definitely are my grinds throughout the day.
How do you get past those? Is it just you try to overcompensate on your side then? Or
I think lapse of communication gives anyone anxiety, especially clients. So it's like you said, overcompensating on my end. You will always hear from me. I will always be in touch. Even if as I always say, no update is still an update.
100%. I couldn't believe when I worked in a different market, Chicago, and I just on a new development, I couldn't get anybody to call me back. Like, well, there was no new news. And I'm like, no news is news.
Yes.
Just just let me know what's going on. Even if they haven't gotten back to you,
Yeah.
just because they ghost you doesn't mean you should ghost me. So
Thanks. I couldn't agree more. So it's a lot of, yeah. So I think overcompensating is a good word. If you're over communicating, then it saves everyone a lot of emotional.
yes. So then the final part, the fresh beans, the bud. Are there any projects that you're looking forward to, or a new listing, a new project?
Yeah, I would say I've been mostly buy side strong my last 3 years of being on my own. So I'm excited to be becoming more of a listing agent. So I think I've got 9 active listings at the moment and 4 in the pipeline for the summer. So I think that is really exciting to me, is really strengthening up the listing side of my business.
And since you come from the digital background, does that mean you do full, movies? Do you have a whole strategy that you implement specifically when you are a seller representative?
Yeah, it's exciting because it's telling the story of the listing, and because it kind of lends itself to my writer or creative side of me too. So that could be a video, that could be, you know, it could be direct outreach to very specific people, because it's just really figuring out what is the listing and how do we tell its story and what is the audience, whether that's digital media, social media, however the medium. So it that part really lights me up, excites me.
Fantastic. So we've come to my favorite part of the show. And this is where we talk about your younger agent self. If you could give them a piece of advice, what would you give the young agent Mike Fabbri as far as a piece of advice?
So to the young agent me, I would say, you know, your failures, your mistakes, your hurts, they will become your biggest strengths one day, and just to keep going.
That's great advice.
I think we learn mostly from what we do wrong or what happens to us than, the wins. So celebrate the losses as well and learn from everything.
Celebrate the losses. That's not something that I've heard. What we've heard a lot is to celebrate the wins early on. So I love the fact that you're talking about, those transformational losses, or just a little losses really can move you forward the most, because you realize, oh, I can't do that again.
Yeah.
So great insight. Well, we've come to the end of our podcast episode. So Mike, thank you so much for being a part of this. We always like to end the episode with a quote. And so this week, Mike, I picked out for you, courage is on display every day, and only the courageous wring the most out of life. And that is by my favorite guy, Zig Ziglar, who has been quoted more often than not in this podcast. So, Mike, we wish you so much success at the agency going forward. Thank you for being part of the Agent Brew today.
Thank you, Eric. A great time. Really appreciate it.
And so with that, we invite you to come back for another episode in the future. I'm Eric Zollinger, your host from Realty Co., reminding you it's a great day for real estate. The Agent Brew podcast is brought to you by Realty Co. Realty Co. is your partner in real estate, bringing you game-changing benefits and services to empower your business. Visit realtyco.com for more information.